Welcome back, listeners. Thanks for listening this morning. My name's Larry Colvig with the Haven Financial Group, and you're listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show. We also have Lance Larson, CPA, on the Haven team. We're talking taxes. Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this on a Sunday morning, Kim. Taxes, and more taxes. How about it?
Well, I think it really is good because we're not necessarily talking about how to tax you more, but we're trying to talk about how to minimize your taxes and to make you comfortable during your retirement age. Your retirement years rather. You may think to yourself, well, I think now that I'm retired, I won't have to pay Uncle Sam so much. And, but that's not necessarily the case. We want to make sure, though, that you're not paying him too much. We've been chatting with Lance about taxes and tax strategy. And, Lance, one of the biggest taxes I know we have in our life is our home and our personal property tax. And I think that is probably for a lot of people. And a lot of people think maybe this is my time to downsize. And there are some advantages to maybe considering that once you hit retirement, correct?
Yeah. So with your primary residence, most of the time that when we're growing with our families, we want to have a little bit of a bigger space, and then the kids leave, we become empty nesters, and then we realize that we have more house than we absolutely need. It's harder to maintain. Then we're also, hey, we're going to go on vacation, we're going to go tour the world, we have fun plans, retirement. Do we really want to have all this house maintenance? And that's kind of what starts triggering these thoughts of what to do with our house now.
So, Lance, let's talk about those options when people are considering maybe downsizing and getting rid of the house.
So, Kim, I normally talk with clients about three major options of when they're trying to look at downsizing the house. First is actually just straight up selling and walking away from the house. Typically, that triggers the discussion on capital gains, and then I get the happy to report that, hey, because of the primary home exclusion, we can exclude up to $500,000 of capital gains for a married filing joint couple, or $250,000 for the singles. So we look at that and we run through the numbers and say, hey, what are we selling the house for? What did you buy it for? Hey, that capital gain is usually less. And then we get to say, hey, you're not going to pay anything for taxes on selling your house. Mm-hmm. The second option a lot of people talk about is, hey, what happens if we turn our house into a rental property? Well, that's also a great option that we can make that house turn into an income stream. Most of the time, clients want to do that with their house because they're going to move to a different state and have a different house over there. They may want to be able to keep some roots here. A lot of different personal reasons why this might be a viable option for them. If we go down that path, it does raise a lot more future tax consequences, such as the income stream from renting out the house. We have to deal with the taxes for that. Then we start dealing with depreciation on the house. And then what do we do if we eventually sell the house after it's become a business use property? So we discuss all those options there. And then the last one is, well, I'm just going to give it to the kids. Mm-hmm. That's a very understandable scenario right there. From a tax perspective, all we're really doing is going to be kicking the can down the road and letting the kids deal with the taxes in the future. And it actually probably will be a more tax disadvantageous way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in the end, because I realize we have all of these options, and obviously this is, per individual, but is selling the house, advantageous when it comes to taxes, or, is it better if people try to find other ways?
Most of the time it is going to be advantageous because of that primary residence exemption that we have, where we can exclude up to that $500,000 of capital gains. And so for people who are looking for tax-free money out of their house, this is the way to go.
Okay. What do you have to reinvest that money, or do you have to start to pay on that eventually?
When it's your primary residence, you do not have to reinvest that money. You can just take that money and run. But then the fun question I always ask afterwards is, well, where are you living after you sell this house?
Right.
If you decide to turn it into a rental property, then there's some options there.
Mhm.
One, you could just sell it and have the capital gains, pay the taxes, and then you can take the money and run.
Sure.
Or there's tax code out there called the 1031,
Mhm.
which allows us to exchange uh, the rental property for a different rental property. So if you're living in here in Minnesota and we decide to rent out the house here, and then we're like, hey, we don't want to have Minnesota anymore because we've moved out of state, then we could sell the rental property on a 1031 exchange. Then we take the proceeds, and then those ones we do have to reinvest into a new one.
Okay.
And if we do everything correctly, then there's no capital gains that we have to recognize when we sell this Minnesota rental property and then purchase a new rental property.
So,
Kim, I
Larry,
will say, sorry,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. You go
I was
ahead.
going to say, with the 1031, you will want to work with a realtor, somebody who knows about 1031 exchanges, because there are a lot of caveats, a lot of rules that we have to
Mhm.
follow with this 1031 exchange in order to not pay any capital gains on that.
Okay. So what I was going to say there, and I'm sorry that I interrupted you, Lance, but it seems to me that these are decisions. Now, maybe it's a decision that's made once you get into retirement and you make the decision that the house is too expensive and the taxes are too high. But these are also possibly decisions that can be made prior to retirement, so that you have sort of an idea of where you're headed.
Exactly. This is not just make a decision once you're retired. It's something to have your eyes open as you're heading into retirement. This is a pre-retirement planning idea right there, because you actually can get a really good offer. We can have, a few years ago when the housing market was just really red hot, if we made the decision to sell the house before we are ready for retirement, we could have made a big dollar amount. Just might have been able to help reduce the amount of time until retirement. So it's like we do want to be cognizant of everything that's going on around in the world, such as the housing market, that can help impact your retirement life.
So as we're talking about taxes today, you can't steer the entire economy, but you can steer your own tax outcome in retirement, whether it's selling your home and the tax implications of that, whether it's taking advantage of tax advantage tools that can work for you. You can reduce your annual tax burden. All these tax discussions come with the planning phase, and that's what people fail to do. Is the failure to have these tax discussions, and they miss opportunities. So again, RMDs, we touched on in the show, all of these things, but I'm going to leave you with this. The reality is, do you have all the retirement puzzle pieces in retirement? Do you know how much risk you're taking in your portfolio? Medicare, life insurance review, an annuity exam, long-term care, estate planning, all these retirement puzzle pieces. They're so very, very important, not because they're exciting, but they can really, really have an effect on the long-term effects of your retirement. So we appreciate you listening this week. Haven Financial Group, we look forward to joining you next week. Feel free to give us a call, 612-504-8400, or for, again, havenfinancialgroup.com. Have a blessed week, and we look forward to seeing you next time.